put that in front of me so I can see. Okay, so obviously, thanks Daria for showing up. And for those that are going to be listening to the recorded version, we are going to be talking about rehabilitation loans. I'm going to keep this fairly simple. I'm not going to go into the detail that Rich did when we did the lunch and learn. Most likely, we've done a lot of lunch and learns on the rehabilitation loans, so most likely we'll wind up doing another one, in a few months to kind of help people that weren't able to be there, people that need a little bit of a refresher, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, the most important is getting some of the basics. So that way you at least know whenever your client's asking you about certain things, you can pick up on some of these terms and it gives you something to be able to, I always say it's kind of like having another bullet in the gun. It's like it never hurts to have another option, another thing that can help separate you from everybody else that's in the business. Because at the end of the day, everybody and their uncle knows a real estate agent. The difference is do you know what they don't? And you know how to do it better than they don't. So these are just some options that give you the ability to speak to your clients in a way that probably 98% of the real estate agents out there have no idea how to talk to. So as a reminder, obviously, Daria, but for those that are listening, we do everything pretty much at Cardinal, not just the renovation loans like the 203K, but we also do all conventional FHA, VA, USDA, and we do a lot of non-QM. That's another one of the lunch and learns that we had just a few months ago on anything from the DSCR loans for investors. You've got the not stated, but it's bank statement program. For those that are self-employed that can't really show it on their tax returns, those kind of things. We have a lot of those different programs. So obviously, if anybody has any questions about those, you can definitely reach out to me about those. So moving on to the 203K. So the 203K is the one that's kind of been around the longest, as people have talked about it for a long time as far as being able to buy a house and to be able to renovate it. So as you can see, it's an FHA loan. The 203 part actually kind of cracks me up because I always talk to people and they're like, what's that K loan? And they always think it's kind of something special. And the reality is FHA kind of has a name for all their loans. So the 203B is just a standard FHA for a single family home. They have the 234C, which is for condos. As you can see, for adjustable, disaster, rural areas, the K just is as it says, it's a designation. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't stand for anything. It's just what they call it in the FHA HUD world. So 203K, you could just say rehab loan. It's good enough as long as you know it's the FHA version. That's what we're working with. As you can see, it includes the rehab and the mortgage payments, which we'll go into in a little more in depth to go along with the money, obviously, to buy the house. You could do it to purchase or you could do it to refinance. So again, this is a great part to talk for real estate agents. Let's say you've got a client that thinks that they're going to be selling in the next year or two, but they need a lot of work on their house. This is a way to be able to give them the money to be able to update the home to get it so it's sellable. A lot of people out there, they especially when it comes to safety issues, they need to make sure that, there's no, baseboards that are loose or, any issues with the plumbing or the electrical. This could give them money to be able to fix those things so that when the time is right to be able to sell, the house would be in working order and would be easier to sell. So this is definitely something that could come into that place as well, where people, they may just not have the ability to get a home equity line or be able to get a personal loan. This is a great option. Because it's based on future value, not the value that's in there right now. So it's based on the money after it's been renovated. To go into it, again, we could do this on single family, townhouses, condos, PUD, PUD's a kind of a weird term. Most of you may know what that is, planned urban development. It kind of is. You really don't know it until you see on the title whether it's a PUD or not. It could look like a condo. It could look like a townhouse. It even could look like a single family home. It just depends on the scenario. 2 flats. You see a lot of those, obviously, in the northern suburbs / city. And then the 3 and 4 units, which we definitely see a lot in the city. And then the fun one, at the end, you can see it says mixed use residential and commercial. So if the property, you see these a lot in the city, where especially like the north side, where you've got, a storefront And then let's say even the second floor might even be another, situation for a commercial space. But then at the top, you've got a couple spaces for, we'll call it apartments, condos. As long as one of those is being owned by somebody that lives there, that the person we're doing the loan for, as long as it's owner occupied in one of those units, we can actually do a mixed use 203K, which is amazing because they can get an FHA fixed rate as opposed to having to go commercial, which is obviously an advantage. So that could definitely separate you from a lot of other people. The highlights. Let me actually move this so I can see a little better. So it's an FHA loan. It's a 96.5% loan to value. So what that means is we are going to take the purchase price and the amount of money that we're needing for the renovation, the permits, the whatever the case is. So let's say $200,000 for the purchase, $100,000 for the renovation and all its fees, $300,000. We're going to take 96.5% of that is going to be the loan. The rest of it would be the down payment. So the down payment is 3.5% of the entire project. Okay. Again, it must be owner occupied, and it's one loan. So it's not a loan to purchase and then like a second, like a home equity line. It's all one loan. It's combined for the amount of money to purchase as well as the money to renovate the loan. So while the work is being completed, if the property is not habitable, meaning that they deem that some of the work is being done, that the person could not live in the property, they can actually escrow payments for the mortgage up to 9 months. I'm sorry, 12 months while the work is being completed. So again, depending on what they say is how long the work's going to take. If the work's supposed to take 8 months, then they could do 8 months. So it's all based on how much work is being completed. The rates are a little bit higher, but it's not ridiculous. It's not like some of the subprime non-QM loans, typically 0.5%, maybe a little bit more than that, more than what the market rates are. And then the best part of all of it is the qualifications are almost identical to the FHA loans. So there's no secondary, this person has to be at their job for so long, things that are outside the box. It's very similar to an FHA loan. And it is an FHA loan or phrase. And so this is kind of a good idea. I'll give you a scenario I had. I was helping a client buy an Elgin, maybe 10 years ago, somewhere in that neighborhood. And we had them approved for an FHA loan. They found a property that they really wanted. We put in the offer. The offer was accepted. But during the home inspection, they found out that there was some flashing issues in the chimney. So because we were already going FHA, we already had them qualified for that. We just switched it into a 203K. They were able to put the money aside to be able to fix the flashing that was needed on the chimney. And because they were doing the 203K, they decided that why not go ahead and do a couple other things while they were there. So they wound up doing some new carpeting, some painting, and they got a bunch of new appliances in the house. So because they were already ready to go FHA, it didn't take a whole lot for us to be able to just switch it over to a 203K, which is great. So again, another thing that you can put out there as a real estate agent to your clients, that's an option, that it's not the same for many other places. So again, the seller can get up to 6% seller concessions from the seller. I'm sorry, the seller can give 6% seller concessions. So whenever it comes to helping with the costs and whatnot for the closing costs, the seller is able to give up to 6%, which obviously will offset a lot of that to keep it so we really don't have to do much more than the 3.5% for the down payment. Moving on. So this one, I'll go through this a little quick, but this is kind of the gist of what I was talking about earlier. So we got the purchase price here of $210,000. We got the renovation amount of $70,000. So the total, and then we've got the mortgage payments and contingency reserve. The contingency reserve basically is when we put aside the money to be able to fix the property, we have to make sure there's extra money for one of two things. One, if the contractor says they can do it for, let's say, in this case, $70,000, but then the contractor winds up running out on the project and we have to hire somebody else. What if the next person says, no, it's actually $75,000? Well, now all of a sudden we're in trouble. With the mortgage contingency reserve, we actually have enough to be able to take care of that cost. And the other thing is, it also pays, obviously, what you're saying, it pays for the mortgage payments as well. And then whenever it's all said and done, if there's money left over, they're allowed to use that towards other projects that if they want to. If not, the money that's left over will actually pay down the loan. So in this case, we got 210, 70 for the rehab, 30,000 for the payments and reserve. So we got a total of $310,000. So let's say at the end of everything, it came out to, let's say, $305,000. That $5,000 that was left over would pay down the principal. So our loan amount would be the 305. Okay. Yeah. So in this scenario, so 310 is what we have for our need. Okay. So, and I apologize, obviously 310 is the total. We've also got the 3.5%, obviously, that we're putting down as the down payment, which would reduce that 310 cost. So ultimately it's $310,000 minus the 3.5% down. All right. So now we've got two different types of loans for the 203K. We've got the standard and we've got the limited. The standard, there's no maximum limit for the repairs. So it all comes down to whatever the max loan amount is, which right now in these days in Illinois, it's almost impossible to hit it unless you're looking at like $500,000 home. So if you find a $200,000-$300,000 home, you're probably not going to have a problem. Minimum repair $5,000. So we just got to make sure there's $5,000 worth of work. And then with the full, you can do the structural repairs. So you can add a bathroom, you can add a bedroom, you can finish the basement. If there's any foundation issues, you can work on that. If you need to extend or open up a floor plan, you're allowed to do that. All those things you're allowed to do with the standard or the full 203K. Again, work has to be completed in 12 months. So no more than 12 months of not being lived in. Again, as I said, up to 12 months of mortgage payments. And at the closing, they can actually get the initial draw for the contractor for the work to be done. So just kind of a quick helicopter. As we do this, the buyer's going to wind up getting a bid, making sure if they need permits, all those kind of things. They're going to find the contractor they want. Once it's all said and done, we're also going to have a plan reviewer. The plan reviewer is going to help with the standard 203K. And the reason why is because it's a bigger project. He becomes more like the foreman, handling the situation to make sure all the work is being done properly, and to make sure that that the money is there for the proper things being fixed. So if the contractor says, "Hey, I can do this for $50,000," but the plan reviewer says, "No, it's going to be more like 65," that's the number we're going to set aside, because again, what happens if the contractor leaves and runs away? So we have to make sure we have enough money for the contractor. As the work is being completed, we're able to do draws. So what happens is the contractor says, "Hey, I did the flooring in the kitchen. I need some money." Goes to the client. They fill out the information that's needed, contact our company, and then we initiate what they call a draw, where we'll send a check to the client and the contractor, and so that they're able to get money towards paying some of the money towards what they've already completed. We are going to keep 10% back just to make sure that they don't run away, because anybody that's worked with a contractor kind of knows that a lot of contractors have a tendency to kind of work on a project, then they run away, then they try to come back. So this is the way to prevent them from, stopping until the project's done. So, and then at the end, they get the full amount at the end. And then the appraised value can actually be up to 110%. So to make it simple, so let's say purchase price and rehab amount comes out to $200,000, but the appraisal comes out to $190,000. We can actually do that deal. And it's because at the end of the day, obviously, we know that the property is getting updated to anything that's needed to be fixed. So when the plan reviewer goes through the property, says, "Hey, the electrical needs to be fixed," there's not as much risk to the lender, because now we know that the electrical's fixed. They've also went through to make sure that the plumbing is all good, that there's no issue with, no leaks, no mildew, all those kind of things. So even though the property might be close to the value, they also know that there's not going to be things falling apart that the client's not going to have money to fix, which is obviously the whole point of the 203K. We talked about the plan review, and then inspections can be done by the plan reviewer. So as those draws are requested, the plan reviewer will go out to make sure that the work is done properly. So if there's an issue, let's say, again, he put down flooring in the kitchen and then some of the beams or some of the flooring is not quite lined up right, he may be like, hey, you need to go back and fix it before we can pay you out on this. And then to go in at the end, it's 1 to 5 draws. So as the work is being completed, they can get another 5 draws if needed to complete the project. If you go to the limited version, the whole point of that is it's smaller things, maybe even something as simple as needing appliances, carpet, paint, that kind of stuff. So it's not meant to be anything super expensive or super engulfing in a project. Minimum repairs of 0. Obviously, you're going to do it with some type of project, whether it's, again, it doesn't have to be repairs. It could just simply be, again, appliances. It's not structural. Can't do anything with foundation, building, putting any additions, roof, any of those kind of things. Now they can put down new roof, but it can't be any kind of, structural work with it. Work's got to be completed in 9 months. So it's got to be fairly, quick because it should be simple. And then again, maximum 30 days uninhabitable. So again, if you're just doing paint, carpet, whatever, it should be able to be done within 30 days, enough to be able to start being able to move in. Cannot do the mortgage payments. So unfortunately, you have to start making payments right away. And then because it's a streamline, they do it quickly. There's only two draws, basically. One, you get half of the money at the closing, and then whenever it's all done, they pay it out at the end. So it's fairly straightforward with that. Again, the same appraisal value of the 110%. There is no plan reviewer on the limited. They're allowed to, but they don't have to have one. And then the inspections actually can be done by an appraiser. So if the work's been done, we call the appraiser goes back out there, and then they make sure that the work has been done completely, properly, and then we're able to sign off on it. All right. How we doing, Daria? Any questions so far?
So the contractor that's putting the estimate on how much the work is going to cost, and this is from an approved list?
No. So actually, we approve the client gets to choose the contractor they want. Just cannot be a family member. And then as long as they get approved, we can use them. So they don't have to come from a list. To be honest, part of it's kind of one of those that anybody that knows contractors kind of always say that a contractor is a contractor waiting to be fired. Well, it's kind of the state of the industry, because again, it's all about the work that comes along. And so if they're working on carpet and all of a sudden they get a big job, it wouldn't be shocking that the contractor took off. And so if that's the case, the last thing we want is, okay, these are people that we approved and now they're running away. So, and again, if there's a problem, the client needs to be able to feel the freedom to be able to fire them too if there's a problem. They shouldn't feel like, they're restricted because these are the only people that we've approved. So,
and definitely the ability to pick who they want, like if they
who they feel comfortable with. It may not be a dollar thing. It just may be like, hey, these guys are really reputable. I really want to work with them. Okay, let's get them approved and get their bid, and let's get moving. So as long as they're licensed, insured, we're good to go. And again, they're able to be approved because we do check background check, that kind of thing. But but it doesn't take super long, and it again, they can choose, and again, they could if they decide last minute they want to change and go with another one, we can switch that. So again, these are all things that, obviously the contractor, we have to do all this, and the bid, we have to do it up front, but all the work is going to be done after the closing too.
And are multiple bids necessary?
No. We could just do one. Especially with the limited or with the full, it's actually a lot easier because not only is there the bid, but the reality is we use the plan review for the specification of repairs is what's called. We use that to determine what actually the numbers are. So, we're actually going to even know, like, okay, what flooring are they using? Which refrigerator are they buying? That kind of thing. So, so that's not a problem. And then it's just to make things a little easier and also have more checks and balances to make sure that the client's not, getting pressured or having to do anything that they don't want to do ultimately.
Perfect.
All righty. All right, let's see here. Let's go on to the tips. So as a real estate agent, whenever you're doing a purchase contract, what you're going to do is you're going to want to make sure you put FHA 203K financing on the contract. So I think the latest one has where it says, is it FHA financing? You would check the FHA financing and then write in with it FHA 203K financing. So again, we're going to use the after improved value, but on the contract, you're just going to use the purchase price. So you don't have to do anything else on the purchase contract except put FHA 203K financing. Everything else is just like any other contract. It's all about the purchase price between you and the seller. Let's see here. As we talked about, the buyer's going to select the contractor. We have approved consultants. Rich and I have been working with somebody. I mean, he's been there since I started. I don't know if Rich has used anybody else, but we have somebody we've been using for a long time, ever since I've been in the business anyway. So 20 years, very good. So, but again, if they need to use somebody else, we can. And then obviously, depending on what area, if it's, let's say it's farther south and they can't go there, or whatever the case is, we have consultants all over the United States we can work with. So it's not a big deal. FHA actually does the approval. So we have the ability to reach to any of them that are approved by FHA to be able to do it. The work has to be started within 30 days of closing. It's funny, usually it seems to start faster than that. But and that's where you put in there 45 days is realistic. But the reality is like, usually the buyers are in they're ready to go. So just depending on the situation, they just want to make sure that the work is planned on being done right away, that they're not, waiting for something. I'm not going to worry about that. Again, you'll see in the contract, we have to have an FHA mandatory clause in real estate cert. It's nothing you have to worry about as an agent. We'll take care of it for that standpoint. And again, you don't have to, the cool part about the 203K also is you don't have to worry about the attorney review period, because you don't have to negotiate any repairs, because they're all going to be included in the 203K. So if there's an issue, now it doesn't mean that there can't be a credit because something's found during the attorney review period, but the reality is everything is going to be included into the 203K. So if as we got here, if the utilities are off, the water's not running, the lights, for some reason are not working in a room, it doesn't stop everything, because it can just be included into the 203K and we're all good to go. So we don't have to stop for those things. And I think this last statement actually, I think, is one of my favorite about the 203K or the rehab loans. So you get a lot of clients that come to you and they say, hey, I really want to be in the Stevenson, school district, or I really want to be by Crystal Lake South, or whatever the case is. And you find these properties, but they're missing something. They go through the house and they go, oh, if it just had a bathroom in the basement. Oh, if it just had that fourth bedroom. Oh, if it just had, a new updated kitchen. But they found the right location. They found the right house. They found the right, school district. It's just not everything they want. The rehab loan allows you to say, hey, if you can envision it, we can do it. So as long as they qualify for whatever it is they're trying to do. So obviously, if the purchase price is $300, they're putting in $200. It's a $500,000 loan, but we can only approve them for $400. Obviously, we're not doing the right thing there. But if it's something where they qualify for the $500, and this fits exactly what they're looking for, this is the perfect way to get that house that they want. And not just, as I always say, it's not just buying a house, it's buying a home. They get to make it into the way that they want to. And so if they can figure something out of what they like about this house, whether it's, it's a corner lot, it's in a cul-de-sac, now all of a sudden they're able to take that house and add the bathroom, add the bedroom, possibly even add a whole second floor, depending on the situation. As long as it makes sense, we can do it. As long as the loan amounts properly under the FHA guidelines and they qualify. So there's a lot of great parts about that. So it makes your job as a real estate agent a lot easier to be able to go, you know what? I know you like this area. What about this property? What's it missing? What do you think you need to be able to make this house the one that would be yours? So I think that's a huge, huge option with this. There are multiple types of renovation loans, and so I wanted to go through a few of them. So there's obviously, like we said, there's a standard 203K, there's the limited 203K, but there are a few conventional choices. There's the home style renovation, the choice renovation, which are two things. Obviously, one's Fannie, one's Freddie. Um, they're very similar. I want to bog you down with the differences between each. At the end of the day, if somebody's looking to do a renovation loan, I can help guide them to which one makes the most sense. But one of the other parts to it that I think is actually pretty neat is we have this one called the Easy Path or Easy Reno. And the gist of it is, instead of having to go through a contractor and all those things that we need to do, we can actually use Home Depot or Lowe's or Menards to be able to use them and their contractors, and we don't have to approve them. Everything can be done through those companies specifically, which makes the deal goes through even much quicker than normal. So if they're only doing, let's say, carpet, some appliances, I mean, that kind of just doing a limited in some form, we can use that program and it makes it super easy, which makes things a lot faster. So obviously, if there's a time frame involved, it makes the process move a lot quicker. So that's something we have that not a lot of other lenders are able to do. So that's another bonus that's something to think about whenever people are looking and they go, oh, if it just had these appliances, or if the carpet was new, or the flooring, they put down if they had the vinyl flooring, that kind of thing. So that's a great program for that. Loan limits, obviously I talked about that earlier. So with the FHA, you've got the 524-225 is the loan limit right now for a single family home with the 203K or any FHA loan. As you can see, going down the road from 2, 3, and 4 units, you can go all the way to $1 million, a little over $1 million on a 4 unit. So, I mean, these days you should be able to find 3 and 4 units in those numbers if somebody's looking to buy a property. I mean, which is another big thing that I think is great. Right now, anybody that's young that's buying their first home, I talk to them all the time about buying a multi-unit, because it's like they can buy the property and have the other units, they can rent them out, use that rent to even qualify for the mortgage. And then, not to mention, after a year, they can, if they're capable and ready, they can move on and buy another property and then have all those units as rental units, as long as they can qualify for the next property. And so it's a great opportunity, and to think you can buy one of these properties with only 3.5% down. So going into the renovation, the Fannie Mae loan amounts is $806,500 for the 1 unit, and then all the way to over $1.5 million on the 4 unit. So there's some good options there. The difference is, like I said, there's some little nuances, but again, I'll go over that with your clients if you guys have any questions with that. Just know that on the conventional, we can do, as you can see, we can do the second homes and we can do the investment. The rates are significantly higher, so be aware of that, because obviously as an investor or a second home, rates are not going to be the same as an owner occupied. And the less money you put down, the rates really are impacted by that, just like it would be on a regular investor loan. Again, going into the eligible properties, they're basically all the same. We do have the ability to do condos, manufactured homes. Obviously, you can still do the HUD homes. I don't know if there's many out there these days, but you can still do them. And then to go into the big part here at the end, just reminder that you can't do any pools, jacuzzis, those kind of things with the 203K. Sometimes you are allowed with the conventionals to do them, depending on the situation, whether it's a pool, landscaping, those kind of things. But you cannot do that with the 203K. So again, if that's something that's important, we can always try to guide them into the right program for that. We talked about the Easy Path Reno, and I'll just skip through that. Well, let me stop for a second. Daria, any other questions?
So I was just kind of thinking about, so what is the downside? Like, maybe it's, because we had such a strong seller's market, even just getting an FHA loan or an FHA offer accepted can be tricky. Now, if a seller sees that it's the 203K, so are they thinking like, oh, it's going to be inconvenient with a bunch of contractor visits? Like, if you can get them over the FHA hurdle, is another negative. Just
I mean, there's a couple ways.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
What are the negatives?
Yeah. Well, the first off, I think would be the first thing to be able to say about the positives is, number one, it doesn't matter the condition. So if they're worried about whether it's going to pass FHA or not, you don't have to worry about that anymore. So that's immediately a first thing that I would be saying, hey, just remember that yes, it's an FHA offer, but the reality is we don't care what the condition is. So if you're worried about is something going to pass an FHA inspection, you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Good.
And then the reality is, yes, it's going to take a little bit longer, but it's not like we're taking 3 months to close. You know, I usually tell people anywhere between 45 to 60 days is about right, as long as everybody kind of does their job. So the one negative that you always have to think about is we're adding parties to the mix. So we're adding a plan reviewer, we're adding a contractor. So because we're adding those two people, sometimes it takes longer, not really the plan reviewer, but the contractor sometimes may take a little bit longer to get us the bid or get us their insurance or, you know, answer some questions that we might need. And so that would be the only negative in my belief that the listing side might have a problem with, because obviously that's the part that sometimes people can get a little frustrated, because let's say you contact the contractor, we get the bid, we get their insurance, we get, you know, all the things that we need, we get moving on it, and then we need some clarification from the contractor, and it takes us a week to get a response. That's the things that wind up causing delays in the closing. And so, yeah. And so sometimes we may need some clarification. We may need some explanation on the bid. Maybe we need a revision. Maybe the bid isn't specific enough and we need the bid to say something, you know, more specific, like especially on the limited, you know, like let's say it says, you know, replacing oven. That's not good enough. We need to know it's the LG 300, whatever the specific model is, so that we know that's how much it's going to cost. So it can't be general. And so a lot of contractors are just going to say, okay, I'm replacing the refrigerator. Well, that's great, but we need more detail. And so those are the things that might take more time. But if the contractor pays attention and listens to us and follows our guidelines, then, you know, that again, we should be right in that 45, 60 days. And the seller should be pretty happy that they've got a property that's probably been sitting for a little while that they're actually going to be able to get sold.
Got it.
So.
But the interest rate is going to be higher for the buyer.
Yeah. So this is best way to we kind of always looked at it is that, you know, you're going to do the 203K, the rates. Let's just make it simple. Let's say normal rates like around 6.5. 203K, you're probably 7.25, somewhere in that neighborhood. But the reality is after the work is completed, like 9 times out of 10, we're refinancing them into a conventional loan or a lower rate FHA if possible. So as long as the rates stay the same or get better in that time period, we're going to try to do something to be able to get them in a better place if it's possible. It's not a guarantee, but if it's possible, we'll try to do that. And a lot of times what happens is, especially these people that are putting in a lot of money into the rehab, we've seen it where people will buy something for 300, put in the 200. So now they've got a loan of 500, but by the time all the work is completed, the appraisal comes in at 680.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they don't even have PMI and they only put 3.5% down.
Okay. Yeah.
So that does happen. I'm not saying it happens often, but it does happen. Yeah. And so again, if somebody starts with, okay, they put 3.5% down, and by the time the project's done, the value shows 10%, we're going to get them really great, a really great rate for even the PMI, because it's only a 10%. It's only a 90% loan now, as opposed to a 96.5% loan.
Got it.
So, okay. So there's a lot of ways to save them money. It's just during the rehab time, we have to keep that loan, because the loan is not finished, where we can actually do a title update where, you know, we wind up saying, okay, this is the actual loan amount. So once all the work is completed, after 6 months minimum, then we could refinance if again, rates are the same or better, into a better loan of some sort.
Perfect. Okay.
So just to kind of go into, I'm only going to take a few minutes to go through this and then we'll be done, or any questions. Just to kind of think about things that you can do with the 203K and the rehab loans as real estate agents, because obviously at the end of the day, you want to separate yourself from everybody. And you also want to be able to give your clients something that nobody else can give them. So we talk about the conversation method. Like, the idea is, let's get out there and start talking about this, put out some videos, do some, one great idea that Rich had that I've talked to a few of my agents about is the idea of, hey, you've got an open house. It's an open house that the property needs some work. Let's go do a video, maybe before the open house about, hey, this property's here. If you could do this to the property, you could, put in new appliances, you could, have paint, you could carpet or put down final flooring or put in a new air conditioner or whatever the case is that maybe that property needs to spruce it up. And so not only are you trying to sell that property, but then it sells the idea that, hey, you have the ability to do something that nobody else is talking about, because nobody else is talking about how to fix a property. They're talking about how amazing their property is. When the reality is then you go to the house and you're like, yeah, that's not what the picture looked like. And so this is more of a reality of, hey, some of these properties need a little work to get them to be turnkey. That's okay. You can be turnkey, but we can do it with a loan. So instead of it closing and you walk right into your house, okay, we close on the house. You take 2 or 3 months to get the contract to fix it. Now you got your turnkey. And it's just as if you'd had it the same way coming in. But the difference is you actually get to be the one to decide what colors are on the wall, what kind of carpet, what kind of flooring, what kind of refrigerator, as opposed to this is just what's there. I mean, how many times have you gone into a renovated property and they already have the appliances picked out and you go, well, what if I didn't want that? What if I wanted the water to come out of the front of the refrigerator, but yet, or maybe you don't want it and it's got it. Where these are the kind of things that people are able to go, hey, you know what? Now I can actually pick out the ones I want. I really like LG, or I really like, whatever the case is. And now they can have it the way that they want it. So those are some things to do. Talk about the open houses, do videos. You're able to do some, obviously some webinars like this one. You can have you and I do, a 5-minute, even just a simple back and forth of like a Tuesday tip. Hey, did you know that you have the ability to buy a house and actually fix it up and you don't have to use your money? Think about how much kind of publicity that could pull off. Obviously, it gives you another opportunity to reach out to all your past clients and say, hey, did you know that we have access to this program? I don't know if you or anybody is thinking about fixing up their house, but here's an option. Or what if they're buying, but they haven't been able to find anything because there's nothing out there that's actually the way that they want them? Might give you an opportunity to be able to get some deals that you didn't know you might be able to get. And again, it starts the conversation and it just gets people talking about it. Again, talking about it, share value, be visible, just talking about it, build a community about it. I mean, we've thought about even the idea of like, even starting up a, like a web page or something on Facebook. Everybody has a Facebook page. It's like, whatever, first time home buyer page. Well, what about, hey, fixing up a house, whatever, those kind of things. All of a sudden you're going to get people that maybe weren't the people that you were getting before. So now all of a sudden you're into clients that were outside of your scope before, but now all of a sudden you're getting tapped into people that you didn't have an ability to talk to before. Which is the idea, like kind of like, creating clients out of nowhere. And again, even the referrals, because I guarantee you one thing, somebody that does a 203K with you, because they've gone through more than just a typical, buy and purchase, they realize how much time, that you devoted to helping them to be able to get a house that really is theirs, not just pick and choose and open up a door, as a lot of people like to think that that's all you guys do. But actually they're going to feel more invested in you as the partner that helped them be able to find a home, not just a house that they can move into, but a home that's the way that they want it. And so now all of a sudden you're going to have more people that are going to give you more of an opportunity to be able to get referrals, because they're going to be like, man, she was so awesome, or he was so awesome helping me figure out what to do. And he had that contractor he knew. Oh my gosh, that guy was phenomenal. And that kind of thing. Those are the things that bring about more, I don't want to say community, but kind of, that's the idea. It's going to make relationships bigger, which is obviously so much about what we do. So, I won't go into that one. Again, talking about the Fixer Upper seminar, especially for first-time home buyers, because they don't have the money to be able to buy the $800,000 home. Well, what if they buy the $300,000 home, but it puts $100,000 worth of work, and now all of a sudden it's worth $600,000? So it's, again, a perfect opportunity to do seminars, webinars, that kind of thing on the 203K, especially for first-time home buyers. Oh yeah, and there's nothing better than, I was just thinking about this too. There's nothing better than if you work with somebody and then be able to take before and after pictures, especially for somebody that did a complete renovation. I had a friend friend now. He wasn't a friend when we started. He did a 203K, and he bought the house, I want to say, for like 150 and put in 150. Now, obviously, we're talking many, many years ago. I want to say it was like 2008. But when he got done, the house went from being something that was like, nah, I wouldn't have lived there, to all of a sudden it was gorgeous. And so his before and after pictures were amazing. And it's something that you can use to do, again, do a little bit of a, hey, you know, this is something that one of my clients did, and you put it out there and you use it as a, you know, a little, you know, whether it's a reel or something on, you know, TikTok, Facebook, about here's something that one of my clients did. It's going to be amazing how many people are going to reach out to you, because they're going to be like, well, how did they do that? I've never heard anybody do that. And then let's see here. Obviously, the multi-unit thing is also important, especially from people that want to be a landlord. So, I mean, if somebody wants to buy a 4-unit property, you're not buying it with 3.5% down. I mean, look at some of these, you know, the down payments can be 20, 25%. To think that they can buy a 4-unit for 3.5% down is ridiculous. And then not to only the thought of being able to buy it that way, but then also to be able to have only 3.5% of the total project to be able to renovate it. So they buy a property that maybe it was, you know, it was all rented out, and it's been, you know, it's aged. And so it needs some renovating. It needs a little bit of a, you know, a facelift. Now all of a sudden they're able to get a new property that they get to live in, rent out the other units, and they're being able to get it for 3.5% down. Another huge opportunity with the multi units. This was a good one that Rich brought up, the whole relist idea, because you're going to get a lot of, you see it all the time. Somebody puts a new house on the market, nobody goes and sees it. It gets like 1 or 2 showings, and then after about 60 days, they get frustrated, and then they expire, and then they either the listing expires or they just take it off the market. Well, what if you can go back to that person and say, hey, I saw that you had your property listed. You know, why did you take it off? Well, because the property, it just wasn't showing well. Nobody wanted it. Now you got an opportunity to possibly get a new listing, just because they can go in there and renovate the property. You could sell it as a renovation. A lot of my realtors back in the day used to put government rehab funds available in the notes on the MLS, just to let people know, hey, you can buy this and also have money available to be able to fix up the property. So there's a lot of ways to be able to sell that, but to be able to get you know, possibly some new listings that you didn't have, or like we talked about, renovate it now, and then, you know, the idea is that you're going to live there. So if they renovate it now, they do have to have 12 months, with the idea that they're going to have it for 12 months, but then relist it the next year. And now all of a sudden you've got a fully renovated house that they're going to be able to sell a lot easier because the house is in better shape. Obviously you could do ads. I'm not an ad guy per se, but I know a lot of people do it, and some people have really good, you know, success with it. And then here's a really great last one that I want to go with. You can build a network through contractors. The best thing that you can ever do is be able to, you know, connect with some contractors, be able to tell them that, hey, I've actually got a guy that can actually be your bank. He can actually fund the work that you're doing on some of these properties. And as you're going, he, you know, obviously any opportunity to be able to refer, to network with somebody, obviously you refer them deals, they're going to be able to refer them back. So there's some potential there where you might be able to network with some contractors, just because of having something that nobody else does. And then those, you know, again, the electrician, the floor guy, you know, the HVAC, whatever. Now all of a sudden they've got somebody that they know can get the money to be able to take care of those projects, and they don't have to worry about if they're going to get paid. That's the number one reason why contractors want to use 203Ks, is because at the end of the day, they never have a question if they're going to get paid. If they do the work right, they always know they're going to get paid, and if they know they're getting their money, it's going to be a great opportunity to be able to use them in a referral situation. Any other questions, Daria? Thoughts?
Are you able to send these slides?
I will. I will.
Them? That would be great.
Yes, ma'am. Yep, I'll get those over to you shortly. And then anybody that sees this and has any questions, you can always reach out to me, and I can always forward the slides to you as well, because there's some really great information. I didn't go too deep. I mean, it still took almost 45 minutes. So it's a lot of information, but ultimately at the end of the day, the key is just, you know, having enough knowledge that you can go out there and give people options, instead of just saying, this is what you know, this is what's available. maybe it's not. Maybe there's some options to what's already there. So
Great.
any other thoughts, questions?
I love that you just threw in a bunch of good marketing ideas.
That was something that I'll give Rich complete kudos on this, because we've talked about some of these things, but I mean he really went in depth and found some really great ideas.
Yeah, now I
Because I
just
mean
have
we've
to do
always talked about it.
that.
Well, right, and ultimately, well, and that's the cool part. Again, you could start small. I mean, we talked about the last one, like, hey, throw up a post. Hey, you know what I learned today on, from Steve Smither? He said that I could do blank, and it could be like as short as hey, did you know you could buy a house and put enough money in it to renovate it, and you wouldn't even have to make a mortgage payment for 12 months? What is that? 3 lines? And now somebody's going to go, wait a minute, I don't have to make a mortgage payment? Like things like that just could get somebody to go, hey, I need to call Daria. Like, well, what is she talking about? Or send a message. Just because, again, at the end of the day, we all know what it's about. It's about trying to get people to reach out to us. It's how do we connect with people? And so it's the reels, it's the shorts, it's the, we were doing it for a while. We did the 2-minute Tuesday tip. It's like, hey, did you know blank? And it's just 120 seconds of something short. And it could be something as simple as, did you even know that you could buy a house and renovate it? I didn't know. Reach out to me. I got an idea. I got some ideas for you. Something that might get people, the phone ringing, because obviously most of what we do is going after people. It's always nice to have some things out there that actually brings people to us. So,
Yeah. Wonderful.
Hey, man. Well, thanks again for coming. I appreciate the interaction and the big audience today. But thanks again for everybody. Again, if you need anything, have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And thanks again, and have a great one.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, did that. Ooh. Let's see. Okay. I think it stopped the